Coming to you from the Pacific Northwest, this is Mythic Radio.
The first time it happened, I was sleeping and woke up because I felt a hand on my leg and I realized that I couldn't move.
And he come across this object on the ground, which was the shape of a flying saucer. So he jumped out of his pickup and went down there, and there was 4 beings laying on the ground.
When I raised my head back up, I was turning my head, and out of my peripheral vision, I seen something hop to a tree. And it was tall, about 7, 8 foot tall, and it was black, real hairy, like a gorilla.
The first thing we saw was this winged creature, 14-foot wingspan at least. It was huge. It almost covered half the road.
Welcome to Mythic Radio, everyone. Hope everyone's having a great Sunday. It is May the 14th. It's Mother's Day. Hello and welcome, and thank you to all the wonderful mothers out there. Hope you know how much you are loved and appreciated today, as you are every day. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day wherever you're listening from. It's actually quite a beautiful day here in the Pacific Northwest, so... Anyway, I want to thank you guys for listening and for being here with me today. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Dyatlov Pass Incident that occurred. This is going to be rehashing a little bit of what we already talked about. But if you have not listened to Part 1, please do so. Over on Spreaker or SoundCloud, you can find it there. And it should be right below it in the playlist. If you're listening to this. So find that there. Also, go check out mythicradio.com. You can click on the Tell Your Story link there if you have a strange encounter or occurrence that you have witnessed or experienced yourself. You can tell us what exactly happened there, ask questions, things like that. We also have a forum over on mythicradio.com that you can join and start your own thread if you would like to do so. And... hopefully we can grow the community a little bit, so that would be awesome. So anyway, over on Twitter you can find us, Mythic Radio Live. Also over on Instagram, Mythic Radio Live. So, getting into it, we are going to discuss just a couple of the things. One in particular that I've been doing more research on, having to do with this incident. And there's actually a plausible explanation, I guess, that some folks have come up with. So just to kind of recap, these 9 hikers went into the Ural Mountains, and they were on a ski trip. And when they were supposed to contact their relatives, a few days later, they did not. A search team was... put together to go and find these folks, and when they got to the mountain, they did not expect to find what they found, and which was that all 9 hikers had perished. And so, in a very, very, very small nutshell, the different ways that these hikers were found was very odd and frightening. As I said, you can check out all the other details in Part 1. But what we're discussing right now is kind of some of the weird things that were experienced, the way that these hikers looked, what they were wearing or what they weren't wearing, and some of the reasons behind that. So, one of the theories behind this is that, so, on the mountain when they were found, some of the hikers had some internal damage done, but apparently their skin did not really show any damage, so there's kind of some speculation there. But what a lot of people think happened was, plain and simple, was an avalanche. This area, though, was not supposedly a high-risk location for avalanches, but that is still probably the biggest cause that most people believe, created this damage to the tent and to the hikers themselves. There's also something called paradoxical undressing, which has to do with, at a certain point, you go through hypothermia, your brain actually starts to freeze, if I understand it correctly. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. where you're just not thinking straight, and your brain is actually telling you that you are actually overheating when you're actually freezing, and so on and so forth. So paradoxical undressing, that they call it, could be an explanation for why a lot of the hikers were outside of the tent with no clothes on or partially dressed and not even in their own clothes and things like that, of that nature. So one of the other weird things that I more recently came across is something called infrasound theory. So apparently the mountain that they were on, there's the topography of the mountain. There's a possibility that it could have produced some sort of repetitive wind noise or a wind event. And apparently this particular, it's like a low frequency sound that apparently will trigger panic-inducing activity or reaction, I should say. So depending on what the weather was doing, what the wind was doing, could have created this low-pitched hum that you don't even realize that you hear it, apparently. And it could have triggered, I guess, feelings of terror and unease. And apparently it's explained, or I should say it's not explained any other way, except this sound wave is too low for your actual ear to realize that it's hearing, but it can produce feelings of absolute fear, in which case it could make these hikers run out of their tent, and possibly then with the cold. So here's what I don't understand, is that, so when they were in the tent, I'm assuming they were warmer, they were, in their bunks, maybe, so they weren't freezing at that point. So what would have made them run out of the tent half naked? It's not like they ran out of the tent fully clothed and then stripped. So that's what I'm curious about. The other thing is, okay, well, you say, well, maybe they heard this low pitch noise that they didn't realize they were hearing, but then all of a sudden it caused them to have fear, and they didn't know why, and they thought maybe they started becoming more paranoid, and they thought that people in the tent were going to hurt them, and so they decided to run out. Again, we found out earlier that it appeared that they had cut themselves out of the tent, which is very strange. So anyway, make your own conclusion on that. I don't know. As I mentioned before, people have discussed that they think that there was some radiation that was found, apparently, in the investigation on their clothes. And apparently at the funeral, a lot of the family members claimed that their skin was orange or had an orangey glow, but others have also said that is hearsay and that was not actually what happened, that was something that people added in after the fact. So, who knows? Also, that their hair turned white, that was something else that went along with the whole skin looking orange and all that. So those two things are up in the air. I wouldn't say that those are actually truths that you can document. That's more of what people have said as the story has been online and things like that. But these hikers' relatives, this is something that they claimed. So, let's see. And then the other possibilities was that the Mansi tribe that was in the nearby mountains was unhappy with the fact that these hikers were close within their territory, and that they, maybe somehow snuck up on the camp and ordered them out at gunpoint. Again, none of them had any bullet wounds. There were no other footprints in the snow. There were no animal tracks. So, that's a big, what if. The other thing was that one of the female hikers was found with her mouth open and her tongue was gone. Some claimed that it looked like the tongue had been ripped out. Some claimed that the tongue had been cut out. Also, her eyes were missing. So, all these things, in one way or another, the best way I describe this story is that if you take each individual occurrence, there seems to be a very plausible explanation for each individual occurrence that happened. But what I find odd is that when you start looking at everything together, that's when this gets really strange. And things kind of start to overlap, and you realize that, well, that made sense at first, but then what about this? Oh, and then that happened? Oh, so stuff continues to compound on top of these different theories, and I don't know, it's just weird. I'm not saying that I think it was something paranormal or supernatural, or that it was something evil or what have you, but it's definitely curious. And again, feel free in the comments below to throw whatever you think in there. Hey, you're crazy. This is obviously scientific. Nothing supernatural about it. Or if you think that it was something from above, that you can share that too. So tell me what you think. So the other thing that we talked about briefly in part one was the fact that apparently a group of hikers that were about 32 miles south apparently saw some lights in the sky, which would have been over where this Dyatlov Pass incident actually happened. So some people think that maybe it was something extraterrestrial that caused the radiation and all this. So, this is something that I want to keep talking about in the future, and I want to get more feedback from you guys on it. And if I find anything different online, or I hear another story or another take on it, I will definitely share it with you guys. But, as far as the Dyatlov Pass incident goes, I'm going to leave it at that. And next week on the show, what I really want to talk about, the topic, is going to be very strange as well. We're going to be talking about black-eyed children. Not black-eyed peas. Black-eyed children. Very strange occurrences where people encounter these children, usually in groups of 2 or more, between the ages of 6 and 16, coming to people's doors, asking to get in. We'll delve into it more, but just to give you guys a quick little origin, it started back in the 1990s. And people all over the world actually are now experiencing this strange phenomena where they might be sitting in the car, might be at home, and they get a knock on the door, and there's weird children out there, and there's an ominous feeling that comes with them. So anyway, guys, thanks again for joining me. Appreciate the support, and we'll talk to you more next week here on Mythic Radio. Take care, guys.